Number 1. The book that predicted the Titanic. It's 1898, and you're a writer named Morgan Robertson sitting in a smoke-filled New York room, hammering out a sea disaster nobody asked for. You invent a huge luxury ship called the Titan, the pride of the shipping world, so big and advanced that people say it's basically unsinkable. In your head, you can hear the creak of metal, the clink of champagne glasses, the low roar of engines pushing through the North Atlantic in April. In your story, the night is calm, the water is black, and the Titan is flying forward at top speed. There aren't enough lifeboats, because why would you waste deck space on something you'll never need? Then, at full speed, this floating palace slams into an iceberg. Steel tears like paper. Cabins fill with freezing water. The rich and the poor all end up in the same place, the ocean. 14 years later, the RMS Titanic sails into almost the exact same nightmare. A record-breaking luxury liner, sold as virtually unsinkable, crossing the North Atlantic in April at high speed, with too few lifeboats, hitting an iceberg and sinking in a few dark hours. A made-up ship called Titan writes the script, and a real ship called Titanic follows it scene by scene. The disaster leads to major changes in maritime law, lifeboats for everyone, 24/7 radio watches, and new international safety rules that still shape how you travel by sea today. And somewhere under all that regulation sits one creepy question. Did a random pulp novelist just get lucky, or did almost everyone else refuse to see the obvious? Number 2. The man who survived 2 atomic bombs. Now it's August 1945, and you're Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a young engineer just trying to finish a business trip. You're walking through Hiroshima at dawn, the air humid, the sky clear, thinking about going home to Nagasaki. A lone bomber drones overhead. You look up. You see a small object drop, a parachute open, and then white. In an instant, the world becomes pure light and sound. The blast rips off your eardrums, burns your skin raw on one side, and throws you into a potato field. Your city is now a smoking, radioactive crater. Somehow you're alive. You spend the night in the ruins, then drag yourself onto a crowded train back home, bandaged and half-deaf, thinking, at least I'm safe now. 2 days later, in Nagasaki, you're standing in your office telling your boss, one bomb destroyed all of Hiroshima. He doesn't believe you. He thinks you're exaggerating. As you argue, there's another flash outside the window, this time over your hometown. Another mushroom cloud. Another shock wave. Once again, you're about 3 kilometers from ground zero. Once again, you survive. Yamaguchi lives into his 90s, officially recognized as a survivor of both atomic bombs, and spending his later years warning the world about nuclear weapons. Out of all the people on Earth, one guy ends up walking out of 2 nuclear blasts, and he spends the rest of his life saying, "Trust me, you do not want a third." Number 3. The twins who lived the same life apart. Picture this. You're born a twin in Ohio in 1940, but you never know it. You're adopted at 4 weeks old, your brother disappears into another family, and your story is supposed to fork right there. Your adoptive parents name you James. His adoptive parents also name him James. You grow up, get into the usual trouble, maybe bite your nails, struggle with spelling, and discover you're pretty good at math. Somewhere else in Ohio, another boy is doing almost the same thing. As adults, both of you smoke the same brand of cigarettes. You both marry women named Linda, then divorce them, and then both marry women named Betty. You both get tension headaches. You both like woodworking and law enforcement adjacent jobs. You each have a son named James Allen, spelled slightly differently. Even your dogs share the same name, Toy. At age 39, you finally meet your long-lost twin. Jim Lewis meets Jim Springer, and you sit there going down the list. Same habits, same names, same vacations, same weird little preferences, all discovered by accident. Scientists bring you into a twin study and realize that your lives read like 2 nearly identical save files in a video game. The Jim twins become a classic case in psychology, used in textbooks and lectures to argue that your genes have way more influence over your personality and choices than you'd like to admit. And for you, the viewer, it plants an uncomfortable little seed. How much of you is really your free choice, and how much was quietly preloaded the day you were born? Number 4. The twins killed on the same road. It's a cold March morning in 2002, and you're an elderly man in a small Finnish town, pedaling your bike along a familiar road. The air bites your face, the tires hiss on packed snow, and a truck engine hums somewhere behind you. You've ridden this route 1,000 times. Nothing about today feels special. A few hours later, your identical twin, same age, same town, same taste in practical bicycles, sets out on the very same stretch of road. Different truck, same kind of icy surface, same blind spots, same sickening moment when metal and humans suddenly intersect. Two nearly identical accidents, about a mile apart, just a couple of hours between them. Local police stare at the reports and call it a historic coincidence. For most of your life, you've had a mirror image, another body with your face, your genes, your age. And then, somehow, you die almost the exact same way, in almost the exact same place, on the same day. It feels less like randomness and more like reality hit copy-paste on the worst possible outcome. The story circles the world as a "can you believe this?" news item, and statisticians quietly add it to their list of examples that human intuition is terrible at understanding probability. You walk away thinking, if this can happen by chance, how many silent coincidences are happening around you every day that no one ever notices? Number 5. The farm where the Civil War started and ended. Jump back to 1861, rural Virginia. You're Wilmer McLean, a grocer just trying to mind your own business on a quiet farm near a little place called Manassas. Then one summer day, the ground shakes, cannons boom, and suddenly generals are using your house as a headquarters. A Union shell crashes into your kitchen and explodes in your fireplace. Dinner is ruined. So is any illusion that the war is somewhere else. You decide you're done being a front row seat to history. You move your family 100 miles south to a sleepy village with the calming name Appomattox Courthouse, trying to outrun the war. For a while, it works. The fields are quiet. The biggest problem is the usual farm work. And then, in April 1865, a messenger knocks on your door with the politest bad news in American history. Two of the most famous generals in the country would like to borrow your parlor to end the Civil War. You watch Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant sit down in your living room, sign papers, and effectively wrap up 4 years of bloodshed while leaning on your furniture. Later, Union officers pay you for your chairs and table and carry them off as souvenirs. You're left with a stripped room and one ridiculous, perfect line. The war began in my front yard and ended in my front parlor. Today, your house is a museum, embedded in the way the U.S. tells the story of the Civil War. And your life is a reminder that you can try to move away from history all you want. Sometimes history just changes your address to match its schedule. Number 6. The Cabin Boy Poe predicted. Now you're in 1838, and you're Edgar Allan Poe, king of the Gothic weirdos, deciding to write a sea story that will disturb absolutely everyone. In your novel, a crew is shipwrecked in the middle of nowhere. They're starving, sunburned, drinking little sips of rotten water. Eventually, they do what starving sailors in 19th century horror stories do. They kill and eat the weakest member of the crew, a young cabin boy named Richard Parker. Fast forward almost half a century. It's 1884, and the real yacht Mignonette is smashed by a wave in the South Atlantic. For survivors drift in an open boat, a captain, a mate, a sailor, and a teenage cabin boy. Supplies run out. The boy, Richard Parker, drinks seawater, gets sick, and passes out. The others, convinced they'll die otherwise, decide to kill him and eat his body. Days later, they're rescued and honest enough to tell the full story when they return to England. Only then does someone notice the name, Richard Parker, the doomed cabin boy, just like in Poe's book. Same role, same basic scenario, same desperate act. The case goes to court, and the judges make a landmark decision. Necessity is not an excuse for murder, even at sea, even if you're starving. Law students still learn this case today, and fans of Poe still bring up this eerie coincidence in lectures and listicles. And you, sitting at home, have to wonder, did Poe just tap into a grim pattern of human behavior, or did the universe quietly plagiarize one of his darkest plot twists? Number 7. The Human Lightning Rod. Picture Shenandoah National Park in Virginia in the 1940s. You're a park ranger named Roy Sullivan, alone in a fire lookout tower. Storm clouds roll in. The air gets heavy and metallic. Your hair prickles, and before you can do anything smart like leave, a bolt of lightning smashes into the tower. It rips through you, burns your leg, blows your nail clean off. You survive, shaken but alive, a freak statistic. Most people would take the hint and change jobs. Roy doesn't. Over the decades, he keeps working in the park, driving trucks, patrolling trails, checking campsites. And the sky just keeps sniping him. Once while he's driving. Once in his yard. Once at a ranger station. Lightning hits him 7 separate times. His hair catches fire. His clothes scorch. He starts carrying a bucket of water in his truck just in case his head ignites. The odds of being struck by lightning even once in your life are tiny. The odds of being hit 7 times by documented strikes are so small, they basically round down to the universe has it out for you. Guinness World Records eventually names him the most lightning-struck person in history, turning a lifetime of pain into a weird little line in a record book. His story is used in statistics and risk lectures to show how extreme outliers really do happen in big populations, and how our brains have no idea what to do with them. It's a reminder that when you tell yourself, "What are the chances?" the honest answer is sometimes higher than you think, especially if your name is Roy.